Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, in the month of Kislev, in the Parsha of Vayetze, preparing ourselves for Hanukkah, we're going to enter into a sugya that we've discussed in the past before, we've touched upon, but we haven't delved into in this particular moment, and that's the sugya of the Roshem, of the Rishimu, of the trace, of the irreducible trace that is expressed and left behind any time there is any expression of holiness. One of the fundamental rules, one of the fundamental klalim of Kedusha, the Arizal points this out multiple times. The Ramak points this out. It's rooted in the Zohar Kadosh. It's also found in the Gemara itself in terms of halachic categorization of certain realities. That when there is an expression of something, when there is an expression of something that is rooted in the infinite, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals something, when there is a disclosure of an entity, of a concept, of a certain holiness, of a quality of holiness or a status of holiness. So in spite of the fact that the circumstances might change, in spite of the fact that that holiness departs, in spite of the fact that the saturation of holiness and light and revelation is no longer present, nevertheless, there's never actual absence. That absence in general, when we think of absence, we talk about something being present and then something being absent. There are two options. Either something is here or something is not here. But in Kedusha, because the nature of Kedusha is the expression of the true essence of what something is, once that true essence of something is revealed, we can't go back to a time where we're not aware of that true essence. And so instead of saying that the true essence has departed in one way or another, we have to try and reorient ourselves to develop this realm where, yes, it seems that the true essence has descended away or moved away from someplace, but nevertheless, we know deep down that there's an irreducible trace, there's a remainder, there's a roshem of that expression of infinitude, of that expression of light that never goes away. Because once Kedusha rests somewhere, Kedusha rests there forever. Because once Kedusha is expressed somewhere, it refines, it rectifies, it elevates, and it reveals the true essence of what that thing was. So what changes is not the essential quality of the spiritual presence that's there. The light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always present where it reveals itself. The only distinction is going to be the levels of revelation. Because in truth, there's no absence whatsoever. It's always saturated with a trace of that which was there. When Kedusha expresses itself, when something powerful or light imprints itself upon reality which appeared dark, and then it's revealed to have been light. So even when that light descends away again, and the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hashkach, or the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's achdus, hapashut, is not apparent there, nevertheless, it doesn't mean that it's absent, God forbid. This is a fundamental rule. This is rooted in the quality that simsum eno kapshuto, that we see that the beginningness of existence is built on the very same principle, that originally, prior to the possibility of existence, all potential space was filled with the saturating and all annihilating light of the infinite. That when the light of the infinite was so all saturating and so present, there was no possibility, no room for anything other than the infinite to emerge, to congeal, so that there would be the appearance of a separate space devoid of the infinite saturation. So what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, Kaviyachol, is he imparts the tzimtzum, the secret of the tzimtzum, the contraction, the movement inwards to the singularly potent particular point that contains all things, that he's mitzamsem shchinaso ben badeh ha'aron. Whatever the tzimtzum was, the tzimtzum takes place and the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is seemingly gone. Now we understand that it's simply concealed. It's not gone, God forbid. It's not an actual removal. It's a concealment. It's a hiddenness. But nevertheless, we see that there was an all-saturating light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then there was a departure of that all-saturating light. And then typically when we look at the sugya, what we find is the halal hapanui. There's a vacant space. There's a void that now stands in the place where that infinite light was once saturating. And so there was saturation, fullness, and now there's emptiness. But what the Arizal hints to, and this is really both in the writings of Rav Chaim Vital as well as the writings of Mahari Sarug, that this tzimtzum doesn't actually fully remove all of the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu chas v'shalom to the degree that it would be empty, but rather there is a roshem, there is an irreducible trace of infinitude that remains behind, because like we said, one can never undo the revelation of Kedusha that has come before it, because the revelation of Kedusha is simply a further revelation of what the essence of the thing is, and you can no longer change what you know the essence to be. And that roshem, that reshimu, that trace, that infinite silent presence of infinitude that rests everywhere at every moment, in spite of the fact that it's not revealed, that remains infinitely. That is never not always already present. The Roshem is always already there. In fact, it might represent the most potent element of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's expression imaginable, because it can sustain itself and shine its light specifically in a place of concealment where it seems that it's absent. And this notion of the Roshem, this notion of the trace, it's not only true with how HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, but it's true for each and every one of us as well. That in our lives, in our cultivation of a spiritual attitude, in our cultivation of grappling with a world where we operate in the binary oppositions of full and empty, of good and bad, of dark and light, of death and life, etc., etc. So we fall into the all too natural, all too human tendency of looking at things in absolutes. It's either yes or no, it's either here or gone. But what we have to come to understand in the wisdom of the Rishimu, in the wisdom of the trace, and the wisdom of the fact that once HaKadosh Baruch Hu is expressing himself in one way or another, and everything is perpetually expressing HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light, that thing will never remain the same. Reality will never remain the same, because now we have more of an understanding that will always remain rooted and traced in the very recesses of our unconscious and subconscious mind that is fully aware of Einon Milvado. That Roshem can't go away. And in our lives of spirituality, of emotional development, of psychological well-being, we develop tools, goals for ourselves, things we want to accomplish, objects that we want to let go of, concepts that we want to embrace in our lives, steps along the spiritual ladder that we want to ascend, areas in avodah, in tikkun amidos, in calmness, in menuchas hanefesh, in yishav hadas, and all of the fundamental parts of what we do in our lives, emuna, bitachon, shtoikukas, tainug, all of those things. We set goals for ourselves, we develop action plans to move towards those goals, and sometimes we ascend on the ladder of spiritual productivity, and sometimes we descend down the ladder of spiritual boredom and apathy. It is not a question of who's good or who's bad. It is the fundamental reality of each and every person in accordance with their own subjective selfhood that there will be aliyos and yuridos. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when and how. It's up and down. We learn this from Yaakov. It's a sulam mutzav artzav arosha magia hashemayim. The life of a yid, the life of a person, is the ascending and the descending of the ladder. The ratzav v'shov kamari habazak, the naga ve'eno naga, the up and down, the baki baratzo. I know how to run upwards to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I know how to run downwards to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. My efforts will sometimes succeed, and there are going to be times where my efforts fail. The question of the Roshem is not so fundamental when it comes to moments of success, because in moments of success, when the infinite light, so to speak, is fully revealed in our lives, when the calmness and the clarity of all things and unity is revealed, so there's no need for me to gain access to this weapon of the irreducible trace of all things that remains even after they're gone. But it's specifically in the Yerida, it's specifically in the V'yetze Yaakov miBe'er Shava, V'yelech Harana, when Yaakov descends away from that place of Malchus, from that place of Emunah, as the Zohar Kadosh says, and goes down to Harana, to Haran, to anger. It's specifically in those places of frustration where our plans do not work out the way we want, our expectations are not met, our goals are not completed, we fall down, we have a degradation, we're scared, we're overwhelmed, we're bothered, we fall back on old habits, etc., etc. What happens when the moichin are not there? What happens when Or Ein Sof appears to be mitzumtzum? So this is where a person has to remember that the Roishem doesn't leave. In spite of the fact that I may have gone up step 1 through 4, but I didn't arrive at the destination of 5, with my basic assumption of either yes or no, so if I didn't arrive at 5, I'm back at 0. But what the wisdom of the Rishimu teaches us is that no, you might not have arrived at 5, but 1, 2, 3, and 4 are fundamentally entrenched and indelibly marked upon your consciousness and the consciousness of everything that will come about from you as an individual in this world and in the next. It is there and it is not going away. Now, thankfully, this is true with good and it's not true with bad. Bad is forgotten completely because it's inessential. We're not speaking about that now. It's secondary. It's an accident that a person engages in anything that is deviation away from the true Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore it's not going to be taken as irreducible. It's going to be taken as something that might look very strong until it's erased and it's ka'afra da'ara. But when it comes to something good, when it comes to a positive thought, a positive desire, a positive action, a positive notion, even for a split second, that does not go away ever. It remains completely and eternally engraved within the very fabric of all of reality and my spirit. That is the secret of the Roshim. So instead of looking at things in a black or white, all or nothing type framework where it's either success or death. What a person has to reorient themselves to is the gradational space of relative levels of success. That yes, I might not have ascended to the place I needed to ascend to in order to accomplish what I needed to accomplish, but at the end of the day, what I have accomplished, I have accomplished. And what I have done, I have done, in spite of the fact that it hasn't led to the completion. Who says that the value of my activity is dependent whatsoever on the completion or the outcome of the activity? It's up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu how things finish up. My responsibility is to do what I have to do. The story that I live with from my Saba, who in Auschwitz, when he was working in Canada in Auschwitz, going through the possessions of Yidden, there was a dayan from Chust, and he said, Srulka, my grandfather was around 16 at the age. He said, Srulka, it's going to be sukkah soon. Save a little bit of bread. There's a plank of wood over there. We're going to go under and we're going to make a leishe basukah. And my Saba remembers being Moiser Nefesh to do this with this dayan. And he said that as he was chewing the bread over there, that stale bread that he had collected from those rations, so he felt that it was abundantly and absolutely certain that Mashiach, that redemption, were about to arrive. And my father, may he live and be well, said to my Saba afterwards, he says, but that when you looked up through the schach, he didn't see the stars, you saw smoke from the crematoria. And my Saba, Schlusi Oganalenu, Rav Yisrael Rosenfeld, said, he says, what does that have to do with me? Lekel Gomer Alai, that has to do with the Rabbeinu Shalom. For me, I did what I needed to do. And my father said, so what did he do next? And he said, I started peeling potatoes to create oil for Hanukkah. Or wicks for Hanukkah. This is the avodah. The avodah is to do the hishtadlus and to recognize that what happens in the end, whether it's accomplished or not, is not up to me, it's up to the Rabbeinu Shalom. And it says nothing about the value of the effort that I had put in, that the roishim, the trace of that holiness, has its way with me. It imparts itself on me and I am changed. It's not a revealed change. It doesn't make a difference. Revelation is simply the smallest expression of reality, that the truest parts of reality are the infinite gradations of concealment that lead us back to that recognition that the concealment of all concealment, which is the infinite one, blessed be he, is completely removed from human grasp by way of the fact that all we can do is enter into this trace, enter into this engraving, enter into this memory that even though things don't appear to be going the way that I expected them to go or that I need them to go, nevertheless, that doesn't mean that things are not going the way that they need to go. And that in spite of the fact that things fall apart and it appears that all is lost, nevertheless, there is something secret and silent that is perpetually emergent and processing itself with us along the way. And in Geula, it's going to be returned back to all of those things that we thought we put effort into and then we failed and that we should minimize and let go of because I haven't been able to stand by that thing or I haven't been able to maintain that mindset for long enough. Geula is the revelation that all of those things were infinitely present at all times, except they were present by way of the irreducible Rishimu. This is the secret of the Parsha Vayetze. Vayetze Yitzchak. It's Vayetze Yaakov mi Be'ershava Vayelech Harana, that Rashi says Yitzias Hatzadik min ha'ir Naset Roishem. Shehu be'ir, when he's in the town, hu hadro, hu zivo, he's the glory of the town. But when he leaves, kulam mavakshem acharav. So we find this encounter specifically with Yaakov Avinu's descent away from calmness and descending down into the dark, dark darkness of Harana, of entering into the house of love and of entering into the binyan of Knesset Yisrael, which we know fundamentally is a difficult process. It takes a lot of building and falling and writing and erasing in order to arrive at that place where a person could be yotze b'shalom from the sorrow shel Esav with Rachel and Leah. And so Yaakov Avinu knows what he's going down into. He's going down into that deep, dark place of charana, of anger, of mindlessness, of frustration, of fear, of terror, of hopelessness, of all of the listlessness that assaults us. And it's specifically there that we have to remember the secret of Yitzias HaTzadik min ha'ir Nasa Roishem. The tzaddik never leaves. Nothing ever leaves. Ein siluk moichan oilam, says the Torah Chacham. Anytime we have a conception of that consciousness leaves us, or that some grasp of spirituality leaves us, it doesn't mean it actually leaves. Nothing ever leaves. There's no emptiness whatsoever. There's no tzimtzum. Everything is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Eino in milvado mamish, k'pshuto ksiv, leis aser panimine. And so everything else is just the recognition of the gradations of the concealment at which HaKadosh Baruch Hu hovers his infinite presence, that Roishem, that Yitzias HaTzadik min ha'ir Nasa Roishem. It's specifically in the descent down into Haran that we have to learn that it appears that the tzaddik departs. It appears that we're no longer the tzaddik that we want to be, that we're no longer connected to tzaddik shel olam, to the Rabbeinu Shalom in the way that we feel we need to be, that we're no longer mekusher to tzaddikim amitim and the svarim hakadoshim of the tzaddikim amitim that we need to have and the principles that we live with. It's specifically there in the Yesiyat HaTzadik Min Ha'ir, where it seems to go down, down, down into the death-bringing darkness of exile. It's specifically there that we're going to encounter the secret of the Rishimu, that Nasa Roshim. The Sfas Emes says that Roshim that Rashi is referring to is Mamish the Roshim of the Orient Sof, that the Arizal talks about after the departure of the Tzimtzum, that there always remains an infinite light. And not only that, it's not only that, but there's a doubled level to this experience of the Rishimu, because the Rishimu is what appears to be absent. It's what appears to be devoid, away from the scene. There's no access. There's nothing here. There's no meaning in this moment. There's no ability to get up. There's no ability to reorient the mind to a place of Toiv lahoides laHashem. There's no ability to affirm at the moment. Baruch she'amar v'haya olam. A person is falling into Yeush. A person is deviating away from Simcha, doubting themselves, doubting their Torah, not able to speak. Sasam tfilasi. All of the different gradations of spiritual descent that we go into in our own particular experiences, each one according to their level, as Rabbi Nassan says, Kisha Adam nofel makom shenafal. We tend to feel that this is no longer an encounter with God, but rather based on the Rishimu, this is the deepest place of the encounter with God, because it's specifically by looking around and not seeing the revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and questioning where the absolute infinite presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, and where the Hanhaga Yeshera is, and where the Kvod Malchus Shemayim is. It's specifically in that place where a person is questioning, like Avram Avinu, where is it? Where is it? That thing that I know so desperately clear of Einon Mavada, where is it? It's not revealed right now. It's specifically there that the person has the ability to go down into the Rishimu, to go down into the absence of what they feel should be there, and come to learn once again the secret of Yitziat Satadik Min Ha'ir Nasa Roshim, that there's always a Rishimu and everything is always present, and I have to simply reorient myself towards what absence and presence means. I have to stop, like we've spoken about so often, stop thinking about absence as the absence of presence, meaning something was here and now it's gone, and rather start thinking about absence as the presence of absence, that there's a presence of something here. It's a presence of something I can't sense, but that's the quality of the Roshim of the Or Ein Sof. It can't be fully revealed, because otherwise it would reveal that there was never actually a departure. And this notion of the Rishimu, that it still remains even after the departure, is only clear and only becomes revealed to us once there's an apparent departure. So the secret of the Roshim is the secret of Shmiras HaYesod. It's guarding the secret. V'aviv Shamar Asadavar, Shin Mem Reish, Reish Shin Mem. Rishimu and Shamar, memory is built on the anticipatory waiting of that thing we know is revealed in an invisible way, and we're waiting for it to reemerge. And it happens specifically by way of questioning it and searching for it, to be doiresh the Roshim, to search out that irreducible trace. These are the words of Rav Tzadok HaKohen MeLublin, in my mind, one of the most important pieces of Torah that exists, certainly for me. But Rav Tzadok is discussing a particular principle in Shviras HaKelim, but it's ultimately true from the top to the bottom and down to our lives as well. This is in Likutei Mahamarim, Ois Chaf Beis and Chaf Gimel. Zakt Rav Tzadok. That the quality of tzimtzum, of contraction, is simply to contract and minimize certain things. Lo kishein kanshim davar, but there's no quality of tzimtzum when there's nothing to be mitzamsim. It applies shape and measure to something, but there needs to be a something in need of having shape and measure applied to it. Imkein mahu magvil. If there's nothing there, what would it be minimizing? Rak sheme'acher shahaya behem or v'nishbar. But rather, once there was a light there, and then it was shavor, and then it broke, and then it went away. Kol makom sheyesh or nishar rishimu mimenu kiyadua. Anytime that there is an expression of light, there is an irreducible trace of it that remains, as is known. As we've learned, al derech yitzias hatzadik ois roshim, that the departure of the tzaddik leaves a trace, meaning to say that it's specifically in the departure of the tzaddik, which is the full expression of light, that we'll come to realize that even in the departure of light, there is still the shmira of the roshim, which is still there. Shenikar shechaser. And what is this rishimu? It's that I come to be aware that the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is missing. And it's specifically when I become aware of the fact that the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is absent, it's there that I gain access into the Rishimu. Masha'ein kein ilu lo hayat tzadik klal, if there was no tzaddik in the beginning, v'chein bazeha inyan ha'or hu hasagas alikus. And so too, with regards to us, this light represents a grasp of godliness. The kvar nisha roishim hasaga yidezeh. If there was no light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if there was no light of the tzaddik, then we wouldn't feel the absence of the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or the absence of the light of the tzaddik. By dint of the fact that we feel the absence or the removal of the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or the light of the tzaddik, is proof enough of the existence of the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the light of the tzaddik, because if it were not there and then minimized, there would be no questioning as to why it's not there. This is a Klal Gadol and Rav Tzadok that he gets from the Meshiloach when it comes to faith. That faith emerges specifically in the recognition that the very fact that I'm questioning faith, the very fact that I have questions with regards to faith, is proof enough of faith, because who said I should be questioning anything at all? Who said I should be contemplating the absence of godliness right now? Elama, I must know deeply and intuitively that godliness is meant to be present, has to be present, and that forces me to reorient myself towards how HaKadosh Baruch Hu could, on the one hand, be absolutely present and not present at the same time, and that's the secret of the Rishimu. Shenikar shebekelim elu chaser mehem or elikus v'hasagas elikus, that it becomes abundantly clear to me in this experience that there is an absence of grasping HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this moment. When I become aware that I am not able to grasp HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this moment, meaning I go down from Be'er Shava into Haran, Harinikar Bahem Hasagas Elikus, at that moment, it is abundantly clear that I have a grasp of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because I'm talking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'nimtza hasagas elikus hu b'kelim hanishbarim ha'elu. It turns out that this grasp of HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes place specifically within these broken vessels, mitzad hachisaron sha'anu royim u'makirim shechaser bahem, from this aspect that it's missing, and it's abundantly clear to me that it's missing. And this is the secret of the sparks of holiness that continue to give life and vitality to the broken vessels in the time of exile. That Perush, what does it mean? What are these hidden lights? What is this way of grasping these hidden lights in Tzimtzum when the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is removed, Kavyachol? Shekoyach oisem kelim hu koyach hatzimtzum vehe'elem legamrei me'or Hashem Yisparach. The principle in which this world in its fallen state continues to subsist and persist is the spiritual principle of what appears to be the absolute absence and concealment from the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But at the very same moment of this contemplation over the absence, there is in and of that contemplation itself the very next thought that is built on the previous thought, which is that, but if something is missing, that means that it's meant to be here. It means that it was once here, and it means that it was meant to be here. Once I realize that it was once here and that it was meant to be here, then I come to realize shenikar shene'ela mehem or Hashem Yisparach. At least it's clear to me that the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu appears to be absent here. The hakara zu hi roishem me'amisas or Hashem Yisparach. And this hakara of the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, your light's not present right now apparently to me, but I know that it's meant to be. When I come into that place, I enter into the Roishem, to the irreducible trace of his true expression of unity. And if it's a trace of the true expression of unity, then in and of itself, it is an expression of true unity, because a trace of something is a deep expression. It's not something different. It's an irreducible mark of the quintessence of that thing. And Mamela, if it's a quintessential, irreducible remainder of infinite light, then that quintessential trace and irreducible remainder of the Rishimu is infinite itself. Like the Baal Shem Tov says in the name of the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim, HaToifes chelik min ha'etzem, toifes etz ha'etzem kulo. If I grasp a part of totality or wholeness, I'm grasping the entirety of wholeness, because the whole is found in the part. The Rebbe Rashab asks the question, how can we break up wholeness? If it's wholeness, then it's the polar opposition and paradoxical stance towards a part. But rather, it's the secret of the part contains the wholeness itself. So when I'm accessing this Roishem of Elikus, which is Einon Milvado, but the way that I have access to it is because I don't feel it right now, and I don't see it right now. And hidden within that contemplation and questioning of where is it, is the preconsideration that it must be here, that it should be here. In that moment, I am tasting a roishem me'amisas or Hashem Yisparach. Sheme'acher sheyodeya she'or Hashem Yisparach ne'elem mehem. Because once I'm at least aware of the fact that the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is concealed from here, kvar yodeya umasik sheyesh or Hashem Yisparach. At least now I've come to a place of already knowing that there's such a thing as an or Hashem Yisparach. And zehu harishimu me'or Hashem Yisparach shebehem. This is the trace face of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in those broken vessels. V'ha'alama. And what is this encounter with concealment? How do we encounter this? Hu ka'asher yizboinin belibo ye'elem zeh v'yitmarmer al zeh. It's specifically when a person contemplates the absence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, contemplates this concealment, and is embittered by this concealment. His heart is embittered, murmuring v'yitmarmer al zeh ad sheyizke lovo al yidei zeh lidei giloi v'eskalus aris barach. And specifically through the worrying, questioning, and the bitterness that emerges from the contemplation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's absence, apparently, there's going to be a hisgalus of Oiris Baruch in accordance with that. Each person according to their own understanding, each person according to their own level. Specifically after and from within that profound concealment, that a person places their heart, feels it, and comes to the recognition that this is not the way that it is supposed to be. This is not what you are capable of. You are capable of revealing yourself fully in ein oin milvado kepshuto mamish. This is not how it's supposed to be. Loy lekach nivra. Rak kol pa'al lemanehu lekliso. And at that moment, the person comes to realize, oh, if everything has to be expressive and indicative of the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then everything is expressive and indicative of the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And a person then ascends out of the concealment, from within the concealment itself, to the Giloi, because they're two parts of the same process. And this is what we refer to as the elevation of sparks from the shattering of the vessels, those irreducible sparks of healing and tikkun from within the trauma itself. This secret of the Rishimu, this secret means that it's specifically in accordance with the distance that we might feel in certain moments from the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that is going to give us access to more of a hasaga of the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because the roishim, that irreducible trace, is how we come to understand the presence of infinitude, specifically where we're convinced that infinitude is not found. And let's apply this to ourselves and to others and to the world, because anytime a person feels that they fall, anytime a person feels that they're broken, anytime a person feels that it's fallen or it's broken, etc., etc., so there is a movement away from the secret of Olam Haba. Olam Haba is Olam Echad Tira B'chayecha, a shleimus, a yesh, oav a yesh, a hanchil oav a yesh, that L'asad Lev HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give each and every tzaddik shai olamos, 310 worlds. As it says, lahanchil oyav yesh, existence itself is a paradise. It's a Gan Eden. There are moments and pockets of the air of Gan Eden that must be drawn down, not because we're deserving, but because we need to survive. This is what we need to do in order to survive. And those pockets of Gan Eden are the chalakim of Olam Haba, the moments of Olam Haba. And when I feel good about myself, I feel access to my Olam Haba. And when I feel connected to the secret of Olam Haba, to the secret of Olam Haba in this world, and to the secret of reward in the next world. But when a person falls, or a person deviates, or a person transgresses, or a person loses hope, God forbid, so then they fall into a place of not having shaykhis to Olam Haba, not having shaykhis to that point. And so we know, thankfully, Chazal have told us that Kol Yisrael yesh lam chelek lo'olam haba. 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 But come along the Chachamim, and they say, except for these and those individuals, they don't have a chelek lo'olam haba. Ein lahem chelek lo'olam haba. They don't have a chelek. And so there's an entire diyun in the Gemara in Parak Chelek, which again, yesh lam chelek, a part, hasamech bechelko, chelek eloi kamimal mamish, ani ish chalak, to be a chelek, that's the secret of Yaakov Avinu, that a teifes it's a chelek, teifes it's a etzem, teifes it's a kol, that a chelek is the whole thing. But there's certain individuals who don't have a chelek to Olam Haba. But then come along Chazal and say, no, even those people, even them, even the ones that appear to not have a chelek in Olam Haba, they also have a chelek in Olam Haba. Even that which appears to be lost is not lost. And who do we learn that from? We learn that from the Dorshei Rishumos. There's an opinion in the Gemara brought down numerous times in the name of the Dorshei Rishumos. Now, in accordance with what we've said, Rav Tzadok says something incredible. Who are these people? From where does this capacity of uncovering the light of infinitude, specifically where it appears to be completely absent, specifically where it appears to have gone into hiding and a descent away from revelation? Who are these people who are able to reveal it? Who are these people who are able to reveal that it's always there? These are the Dorshei Rishumos, those who seek out, those who yearn after the Roshim, to find that irreducible trace of memory that exists, reminding me that nothing is lost, nothing is gone, even when it appears lost, and even when it appears gone, that leval yidach mimenu nidach, that nothing remains lost. U'ba'olam hazeh, and in this world, i'efshar lahasig zeh. This is Rav Tzadok in Takanas Hashavim Ois Ayin Tes. Person can't grasp this. She'adayin ein hiskalus me'orish Mashiach, because the light of Mashiach is not revealed yet. Ragdor Rishumos. It's only those who seek out the Roishem. Amru Shakulam Yesh Lem Chelak Leil Mahaba. They are the ones who understood that there was no tzimtzum, that the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu was still there. Shahim Hisigu Rishimu Hanishar Me'or Hanitak Mehem. That they grasped the light that remained irreducibly, the quintessential light that remained even after the departure. They were able to access that irreducible trace, that chelek Elokai mimal mamish, that remains essentially connected to the infinite essence of all things kaviyachol that it comes from. And this secret of the Roshim, is where we come to where we're at in this week's Parsha, to where we're at in Metzias, and to where we're at in Kislev. It's a time of dreaming. Kislev is hamelech oisamech b'shena. It's a descent into slumber, sleeping, unconsciousness, the inability to hear, the inability to listen, the inability to think clearly, the inability to know what's up and what's down. That's the terror of the night. That's the erev. That's the pachad leilos, and all of the associations that we have with nighttime and darkness. And it's specifically there that a person goes to sleep. It's specifically there, which at first glance appears to be a departure of the mind, a departure of wakeful consciousness, a departure away from emunah and bitachon and all of the good things. But we know that even though a person is falling into slumber, into that charan af, into that place of anger, there's a secret of the chalom. There's a secret of a dream, the wakefulness of the heart asleep, of aniyah sheina v'libi air, that yes, it appears to be dead on the outside, but there's a life, there's a chayas, there's a pulsation of the or of kes, the light of Chalomos, which has the ability to connect the farthest opposites in the world in a way that nothing else can reveal the unity. The madness and the chaos and the intensity of the dream is simply a revelation that all things are connected to a singular source. And it's specifically there that we revitalize the life. We revitalize the night, where Yosef HaTzadik learns to come out of Mitzrayim. How Yaakov Avinu descends down into Harana, where he's Vayachlom Yaakov, and Yaakov dreams, that place of the Chalom, of entering into the light of Keser, of the Nakuda of the Cholim, which stands above the Yud, that secret of connectivity, of the hiskashas between meaningfulness and meaninglessness, of randomness and chaos and precision. That place of the Chalom, and the Arizal says, what is the Chalom? The Chalom is the departure of Moichin de Gadlus. When I go to sleep, I lose Moichin de Gadlus. I don't have access anymore to that clarified revelation of all things. But the dream is the emergence of the Roishem de Moichin de Gadlus within Moichin de Katnus, the irreducible trace of Moichin de Gadlus, of contemplation of godliness and meaningfulness within Moichin de Katnus, meaning within the territory where it has already left. It's accessing the light of consciousness of God, specifically where I don't have consciousness of God. That's the secret of the Roshim. That's the secret of the Dorshe Rishumos. That's the secret of what it means to be a Yid who's digging out to create those pockets of vessels to contain the olive oil, which leaves a Roshim to illuminate the darkness. That secret of the Roshim, of the Or, that illuminates even the deepest darkness in the world. That's the secret of the Aviv Shamar Asadavar, as Rav Leibel Eger of Moshe Weinberger Shlita, my Rebbe, quotes all the time in the name of Rav Leibel Eger, the Torah's Emes, Schlusiyog and Elenu, that by Yaakov Avinu, after he loses Yosef, after he no longer can hear that dream of Yosef where the Roshim appears to be gone, so what happens is Yaakov Aviv Shamar Sadavar. He waited by the window, he waited outside like the Neiros of Hanukkah, like we're all waiting for Mashiach, for redemption, for return, for pidyon, for everything. We're all waiting, Shamar. But Shamar is Rishimu. Shamar is the same Osios as Roshim, because the waiting is motivated by the belief that nothing is gone, everything is here. We're waiting for that which is always already here to be revealed again. Reveal that the Tzimtzum was in a kapshuto. Be mamayit the Tzimtzum with the Tzimtzum, which is the secret of Neiros Chanukah, which is the secret of Vayetze Yaakov It's the secret of the Chalom. It's the secret of Darshe Reshumos, the ability to be Dairish, like David Malka Mashiach was Dairish, the Rishim, the Beis Hamikdash, to come to realize that nothing is lost and everything remains forever. And Netzach Yisrael lo yishaker, and Gam ki yelech beget samaves lo yirara ki ati madi, and Gam charvon yizachar latov, and v'gam, and everything goes weiter, in the secret of the Rishimu, until the Rishim is chayzer back to the Shirish to be Megalazayin on a deeper level of Orin Soif Mamish Kavyachol, to be Megala a new seder of a saturation, a tzimtzum, a roishim ad ein Soif Mamish be'ezras Hashem.